When you're a songwriter and you have this happen with such a great voice like Celine's, it's just indescribable.
Before the world knew he was slipping away, before the headlines, the shock, and the heartbreak, Maurice Gibb shared something with Celine Dion that she kept close to her heart for years. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't poetic, it wasn't meant to be a final message, but after his sudden passing, those words started echoing back to her with a weight she never expected. They came from a quiet moment, buried inside a whirlwind year when the Bee Gees were gifting her one of the most powerful songs of her career. To Maurice, it was just honesty. To Celine, it became something else entirely. A reminder of a man she admired, a soul she trusted, and a voice that left the world far too soon. And when she finally spoke about it, she broke down, not because the world had lost a legend, but because she realized what his words had really meant. Only when it was too late to tell him. So what exactly did Maurice Gibb say? And why did it haunt her in the years after he was gone? You're watching RetroWaves, where the untold stories of music finally come to light. If you're ready to hear the truth behind the moments the world never saw, let's continue. To understand why this moment mattered, you have to imagine something simple. One of the greatest vocalists alive, stepping into a room with three brothers who built their entire legacy on harmony. Celine Dion and the Bee Gees didn't just collaborate, they collided in the most unexpected, emotional way. Immortality wasn't just another song, it became a bridge between two musical worlds, two generations, and two kinds of brilliance.
I make my journey through eternity.
Maurice wasn't the loudest member of the Bee Gees. He wasn't the most quoted, but people who worked with him always said the same thing. He carried a gentleness, an instinct, a way of making others feel understood without trying. And during that collaboration, he noticed something in Celine that he never forgot. Something he told her long before anyone imagined his life would end the way it did. And that truth, simple as it was, would stay with her forever. The story begins in the studio, where Celine arrived expecting to record another powerful ballad. But something felt different the moment the Bee Gees stepped inside. Maurice watched her the way only a true musician could, not focusing on technique, but on presence. He saw the nerves she tried to hide, the pressure she carried, the fear of not honoring a song written by legends. And that's when Maurice said something she didn't understand at the time. He told her that her voice came from a place most artists never find, a place beyond training, beyond ambition, beyond success. He said it almost casually, as if he were describing the weather. But Celine felt the sincerity instantly. She didn't know it would become one of the last personal impressions he'd ever leave on her. She didn't know those words would later return like a whisper she couldn't quiet. At the time, she simply smiled and kept recording. But the recording of Immortality
We don't say goodbye.
became something much larger than any of them realized. The harmonies, the emotion, the breath between lines, all of it became a snapshot of a moment that could never be recreated. And when they walked out of that studio, none of them imagined how time would change the meaning of that day. The loop remained open, waiting for the day she would understand. As the months passed, Celine learned more about Maurice, not through deep conversations, but through the subtle things, the compassion in his voice, the humor he used to lighten long sessions, the way he listened before offering advice. He had a softness that didn't match the chaos of fame, and Celine found herself drawn to it without knowing why. During one quiet moment, Maurice told her something else, something that lingered in a different way. He said that voices like hers weren't meant to compete. They were meant to heal. At the time, Celine brushed it aside as a beautiful compliment. She didn't realize that Maurice rarely spoke in flattery. When he said something, it came from a place of deep truth, formed by decades of surviving a brutal industry. Years later, when she recalled that line, she broke down because she understood what he had seen in her long before she saw it in herself. But what makes this moment even more haunting is what happened next. Life moved on. Careers surged forward. The Bee Gees faced their own battles, their own storms. Celine went back on tour. They didn't have long conversations or emotional farewells, just a shared chapter that felt complete. Until the day news broke about Maurice. And suddenly, those small, almost forgettable sentences became something she replayed again and again, searching for meaning she feared she had missed. When Maurice collapsed unexpectedly and was rushed into surgery, the world was caught off guard. His brothers, his family, his fans, all of them waited for updates that never brought comfort. And somewhere across the world, Celine felt something she couldn't explain. It wasn't closeness exactly. It was reverence, the sense that a light she had only begun to understand was fading. After his passing, Celine didn't speak immediately. She didn't share statements. She didn't turn to the spotlight. Instead, she turned inward, replaying every small memory she had of him. And one detail rose above the rest: the way he had looked at her during that recording, as if he saw a part of her she had spent years trying to protect. She realized then that his words weren't about her voice. They were about her vulnerability, her fear of losing control, her fear of disappointing the world. Maurice had sensed it and tried to ease it, without ever calling attention to her pain. And that realization crushed her, because she hadn't understood it until it was too late to tell him how deeply those words would eventually matter. The loop tightened, the echo grew louder, and Celine found herself carrying a grief that felt strangely personal, even though she had known him only through a narrow, beautiful window of time. Years passed before Celine ever spoke publicly about Maurice in a meaningful way. But when a Bee Gees tribute event asked her to perform Immortality, something inside her shifted. She said yes, not because it was expected, but because that song had become her bridge back to him. During rehearsals, she struggled, not with the notes, but with the memories. Every phrase reminded her of the softness Maurice carried. Every harmony reminded her of the brothers he left behind. And when she reached the final chorus, she felt his words again. Your voice comes from a place not everyone reaches. For the first time, she understood what he had meant. He had been telling her that her voice held emotion she was too afraid to confront. And as she performed at the tribute, she broke down, not theatrically, not for the crowd, but in the quiet, involuntary way grief sneaks up on you. People thought she was crying for the Bee Gees, but she was crying for something else. The realization that someone she barely had time to know had understood her more deeply than most people ever had. That night, she revealed for the first time what Maurice had told her, and the world began to see the truth she had carried alone. The more Celine reflected on that time, the more she understood that Maurice had left her with something she didn't know she needed: permission. Permission to feel, permission to break, permission to stop hiding behind perfection. She recalled him telling her that music wasn't about power, it was about presence. And after his passing, that idea reshaped the way she approached her craft. She no longer sang to impress. She sang because Maurice had reminded her, intentionally or not, that emotion was the heart of everything. In interviews, her voice cracked whenever she spoke about him, not because they were extraordinarily close, but because his words, spoken casually and without expectation, had become a guide she didn't realize she had been following. What she revealed, slowly, hesitantly, was that Maurice had unknowingly given her a final gift: the belief that her voice had meaning beyond performance. And that belief became a lifeline in moments of her life when she struggled to hold herself together. But even with all this understanding, one question lingered in her heart. Why did his words matter more after he was gone than they did when he was standing right beside her? The loop was finally closing, but the emotional peak was still waiting. The real truth, the one Celine never shared in full but hinted at through tears, was this. Maurice saw the fragility behind her strength. When he told her that her voice came from a place beyond technique, he wasn't describing talent, he was describing pain. The pain she carried during those years, the exhaustion, the pressure, the loneliness that comes from giving the world everything and keeping nothing for yourself. Maurice recognized it instantly because he knew that feeling too. His life had been marked by reinvention, by storms, by survival. And when he saw Celine pushing herself past emotional limits, he instinctively offered the reassurance she didn't know she needed. And that, she later admitted, was what broke her the most. Not that he said something profound, but that someone who was fighting his own silent battles spent his final years still comforting others, still lifting others, still seeing the best in them, even when he was carrying his own heaviness. When she finally revealed what he had told her, she wasn't revealing a secret. She was revealing a realization. Maurice had understood her, deeply, quietly, instinctively, in a way she only recognized after he was gone. And once she understood that, she couldn't hold back the tears. Celine has carried Maurice's words with her ever since, not as a burden, but as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the most meaningful moments are the ones we don't recognize until life forces us to look back. A reminder that the people who touch us most deeply aren't always the ones who stay the longest, but the ones who see us clearly, even in fleeting moments. Every time she performs Immortality, she feels him there. Not as a ghost, not as a legend, but as the gentle voice who once told her the truth she wasn't ready to hear. And that truth became her anchor, because some words don't fade when a person leaves the world. Some words stay. Some words become immortal.